Hey everyone, and welcome to the channel. And today on the channel I'm going to be talking about a brand new Indian Hindu language film called Laal Singh Chaddha. Now this is my first experience ever watching an Indian film in theaters, so how did I feel about this film? Before I go into my review and my thoughts about this film, if you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button, give the video a like, comment below your thoughts on this film, have you heard of it, and also turn the notification bell so you never miss any review that I make and I upload weekly. And now without further ado, let's get into my thoughts on this brand new Indian film. Directed by Advait Chauhan, Laal Singh Chaddha is about a simple man whose extraordinary journey will fill you with love, warmth, and happiness. The film stars Aamir Khan, Shah Khan, Kareena Kapoor, Mona Singh, and many others. Laal Singh Chaddha was not a film that I even knew about until this past week. My theater didn't get a lot of the bulk of the new releases this past week. They only got Mac and Rita and this film. So I just went ahead and just kind of read the synopsis on this. And the synopsis didn't really say too much, but I went ahead and went on Wikipedia and I looked a little bit more about this film and watched a few reviews. And come to find out, this film is an actual remake of Forrest Gump. How extraordinary that this film is actually being made. Forrest Gump is one of my favorite films of all time, and I was definitely down to check this out. So if you're not familiar with Forrest Gump was released back in the 90s. Tom Hanks starred in it, and it basically has him sitting on this bench and basically telling people his life story and saying everything that really happened in his life up until present day. And this film, it has that same kind of element. The only difference in this film is the person's name is Laal instead of Forrest Gump, obviously, and he's on this train and he recounts all his stories and all about his past lives on this train rather than a bench. And if you've watched Forrest Gump, you know he has the famous line, "Life is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get." In this, he says, "Life is like a box of Golgappas. Your tummy may feel full, but your heart craves more." And I didn't know what a Golgappa was going into this. It's a very interesting kind of actual food. So basically, it is a puff ball, and it has chickpeas and potatoes, spices, and onions. And they use this mint-flavored water to basically have it to have flavor. It was very interesting, very extraordinary. I never heard of this dish before. And it was very interesting that he was eating these on the train, you know, compared to chocolate in the original. The film does have some similarities still to the original Forrest Gump film. Like, he is slow like he is in the original film, and he has the leg braces, and he does meet a girl like he does in the original Forrest Gump. The only difference is her name is Rupa, and he doesn't meet her on the bus like the original because he lives in an actual village, so they don't have buses, so his mom takes him to school. So he meets this girl there named Rupa, and it has that same kind of relationship just like Forrest Gump with Jenny, and they even have that line in there with the peas and carrots and stuff. So in this one, I would say Rupa, compared to Jenny, her parents, actually her dad, I should say, is a lot more abusive. And not only is he more abusive in this, but he actually murders the mother in this and goes to jail. So it's a little bit darker in that aspect and was very surprising to me. But I really thought that this film had a lot of good production value. I like that for the most part, it did follow the original story, but also having a little bit of spin on it as well. Whereas in the original, we get a lot of the American history and we get Elvis in that. This is more so Indian history and other different aspects and different people in the Indian culture that they looked up to. So I liked learning about that compared to the original and not just having a shot-for-shot remake. And even in this film, I really did like the cinematography. There's a really, really nice shot where they're having a shot close to the house and they have this field of yellow flowers. It's absolutely gorgeous looking at all those yellow flowers. Just a huge field of flowers that is acres and acres of flowers, and it was just really, really good, just the way that that whole production value was. And I really enjoyed seeing those different shots. I just enjoyed unraveling the story. Now, in the original, you have Bubba, and he meets him in the army. So he does meet somebody in the army here, but his name is Bala. Now, the difference of meeting Bala is his family actually owns a underwear company. So he's really obsessed with doing undergarments. So it's a little bit different than having the shrimping business, but it has that same concept as the original. If you're wondering how the soundtrack in this is an actual original soundtrack soundtrack. None of the original songs from the 90s movie are in this, so it is a little bit different hearing actual Indian tracks throughout this. I was okay with the score, but it does feel like it's missing a little bit something. And of course, I'm sure they couldn't get the rights to have the original songs in here. I'm sure that would be too much trouble. And this film, I did read that it had a lot of different trouble trying to get off the ground, especially through COVID. And even before the film, before it even starts, it has so many different cities they're thanking and so many different areas where they shot this film. And you can really tell that they really worked really hard on this film. Now, as far as the acting in this, I think that the acting is pretty good for the most part. There are some weird parts with Laal in this where he has some weird kind of mannerisms and he has different kind of expressions that are kind of weird. And there are parts where he's talking and he's going, oh, it's a little weird. I don't know if I really like that about the film. It was definitely something that was a little bit off-putting at points. I also felt at times that Laal, he was a little bit smarter than I really thought he would be. There are points in the film where he keeps asking Rupa, will you marry me? Will you marry me? It was like 3, 4, 5 times in the film. And it was a little bit that he was a little bit smarter in the film. He also felt a little bit hyper at points because Forrest Gump is a little bit more dumbed down in the original. So I felt at points he wasn't as dumbed down in this. But other than that, I thought that this film still had those heartfelt moments. I will say that Rupa's character in this, she definitely has some darker aspects, especially what she's involved in with this organized crime lord and these different celebrities and stuff. It was definitely a little bit darker than what I expected it to be, but for the most part, I really think I enjoyed this film and I really think it's worth a watch. Now, do I think it probably will have rewatch value? Probably not for me. You know, a one-time watch is pretty good. It definitely is missing that soundtrack that I really love. It does have that whole feather aspect, you know, in the beginning of the film where the feather goes down and, you know, lands on the ground, and it does have those aspects. So I think for the most part, they do have a lot of cool details in this. I also do like the war scene in this. It's very intense, just like the original. So I do think that this film, it does capture a lot of the original elements, but it also has that spin on it, and it also has some parts that I wasn't really caring for as well. But overall for me, I'm gonna give a score of this film a 4 out of 5. I think it's a pretty solid film, and it's definitely worth a watch. You guys should definitely check it out. Let me know if you guys do, and I'll see you guys on my next review.